Jaden Bales, welcome to the podcast again, the Wyoming correspondent. Before we pressed record, we were talking about technology and how 10, 15 years ago we didn't need a lot of the stuff that we have now. Do you think that we can survive without it, or do you think that technology has become such a part of our everyday life and work experience that we can only go part of our day without it?
Man, I know a lot of old-timey guys and gals, still don't run smartphones or whatever. So I would say we can still do it without it. We'd have to make some sort of adjustments, but for the most part, dude, we put so much value on it, and I don't think it's really needed. It's one of those things like when you're like getting ready to go, I'm sure you feel this way too. When you're getting ready to go for like a big fishing or hunting trip, you're like, oh my God, everyone is going to want to talk to me while I'm gone. I'm going to miss all this stuff. And you come back after like 5 days and nothing has changed. And you're like, oh,
Sorry.
Okay.
Exactly. You think
I don't think it's as important.
Calls and mixed. I've only a couple times I've come back from hunts and I've had like 47 text messages. That's just because someone in one of the group chats goes off on a rant and then everybody responds to the thread. It was like all 47 within like a 3-minute time period. Other than that, it's crickets.
Yeah, exactly, man. And most of this, maybe I'm lucky and I haven't had major family emergencies happen yet, but barring a major family emergency, I don't see why, you're going to come back and something, isn't going to be okay when you get back to service,
Yeah. So speaking of technology.
I say this, but I'm going to the mountains this weekend and I get perfect bars on top of the mountain. So I'm like, on one of my scout trips, man, I was freaking on Instagram, screwing around, looking stuff up on Amazon or whatever. So, I say it, but I'm one of the worst offenders as far as using, internet and technology when I don't necessarily need to be. So.
Yeah, I think it's an excuse, a positive excuse. It's the right thing to say. So you kind of have to check yourself. But you are in your position for the Wyoming Wildlife Foundation or Federation, and then also with Cody Rich, like you are in the industry to a degree. So you have to have some sort of online presence because it's marketing, and you're marketing yourself and your products that you're involved with. So that's the right thing. And as a writer, freelance writer, having some sort of online presence is important to me. But that's the right excuse, or that's the right thing to say, the right justification. But it could just be that I'm addicted. That's the real reason.
Oh, it totally is, man. Well, and I've oftentimes thought, like, as a retirement move, it'd be sweet to own like a small archery shop or like a little woodworking store in a small town someplace that just serves local stuff. But I still don't know. You're handicapping yourself if you don't use all these other internet tools. And I try to think of like a business model where you don't need it, and it's really not. It's really hard to make it not an option.
Yeah. To not have an online presence if you're a business or an entrepreneur, it's doesn't make any sense. Wow.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Well, I was going to change subjects to move on unless you had a closer for that portion.
No, man, go ahead.
So there's use of technology and there's improper use of technology. And there's this third category that we'll start off with is it's not improper use of it, but it's misreading, or you have all these things at your fingertips and you read it wrong. So I'm going to recap my latest hunt here. And I'll tell you the goof that I made. And I know that you made a goof too, so we can talk about our early season mistakes. So
my goof is actually related to a little bit of technology too. So this actually is all tying in.
Yeah, just bring it all together. So I have a new boat. It's new to me at least. And so I'm looking at extending the range. And so I scouted a spot in the mountains that can work for an over-the-counter resident mountain goat hunt. So I was really excited about that. And I looked at the maps. I looked at OnX. I looked at Google Earth. And so I'm plotting my way to get from sea level to this mountain that has reportedly had goats and looks so goaty. I thought it was on. So take my boat down there, about a 6-mile bike ride on an old logging road, and then there's a hike. And then there are these two little mounds. And that was going to be somewhat of a complication, but it didn't look too bad. When I was looking at the contour lines, I was using the hybrid map and then just the topographical map. And it goes from, we made camp at 1,500 feet. The first knob topped out at a little more than 1,900, but it wasn't far enough. There's 100-foot lines, feet between the lines. It didn't quite get to 2,000 feet, so it was somewhere above 1,900. And then to get to the next hump, it didn't go all the way down to 1,800. It just went to 1,900. So it was somewhere above 1,900. And then on the way to the other nub, it was somewhere below 1,900. So when we got on that thing, it ended up being darn near 2,000 feet, dropped down to almost 1,800 feet, and then back up to 2,300 feet. So what I thought was going to be like a little dip, you get up to like 1950 or so, and then you go down to 1850. Ended up being more like 200 feet and about 300 yards. And there was no trail. It was brushy. It was awful. So by the time we got to the second nub, down the second nub, and then finally working our way up the ridge, like we were hours in it. We were moving at like a mile and a half per hour. It was that that awful and that just gross. So I thought I had this all scouted out, but man, in actuality, it's so different. But you know, you've hunted Oregon. You're from Oregon. You know that you can't get a good view of some of these satellite images. It's just too thick.
That's exactly what happened to me on my very first backpack hunt. There was this giant fire that kind of shut down the area that we had scouted out all summer. And so my buddy and I were like, okay, we'll just go bump over a few ridges. And this area in Central Oregon, like it had this giant fire come through at 2003. And all that's replaced it is this manzanita brush. It's like, you know, chest to above, 6 feet tall probably. So 4 to 6 feet tall. And it is just nasty, kind of like willows, like just hard to get through. And so from the sky, it looked like it was fine. But we had that same issue. And whenever it does that, like if it was slow and you knew it was going to be slow, that's one thing. But when you have like a set time span of which you expect to get somewhere, dude, that's demoralizing. Yeah. I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah. Well, that was when I looked at it, it looked about 3 miles, and that's not bad, man. You can book on 3 miles, and the last probably mile and a half or so of it was broken in that pre-alpine. You can just kind of work your way through it. Then it was alpine. So like that point, you're hunting, and so you feel fine. You can go some steep stuff, no problem, because you're hunting. But being still in the woods, man, it was demoralizing. And then knowing that we're going to have to go all the way back through that stuff, oh man, it was terrible.
So how'd that go? Coming back through. Abby was with you, right?
Yeah, and that actually the plan was to get the goat and then propose. So
okay.
When by the time we got there a little bit late because we didn't want to leave town until she got her COVID test back. Because if then they're calling, you sign this sheet of paper that said you're going to be quarantining at this location until you get your results back, because they were testing everybody that was coming into Ketchikan. It was a free test, which is pretty sweet. So they were testing everybody that was coming into Ketchikan, and she signed the paper that said she'd be quarantining at my house until. So we waited for that call. So it put us a little behind schedule. So we didn't get up the mountain quite as much as I would like to by the time we boated down to this spot, and then mountain biked up, and then hiked. So when we left in that morning, it was rainy. We couldn't see anything, and we couldn't even see up the mountain to the ridge to kind of see, where we're at, how close we are, what the mountain looks like. We couldn't do any glassing or anything. So that was even more, kind of discombobulating because you can't see anything. But So we get up there, and I'm seeing deer. We didn't see any goats. It finally clears. It's beautiful. Don't see any goats, and I know that this is just a very small weather window. So if we go up there and we try to get a goat, we might find one, might not. The next day, definitely not going to be good enough weather for it. So I just I shot a deer, really nice, 2x3, thick. And then as we were cutting up the deer and putting it in the packs, I was like, all right, at some point, when am I going to do this? Okay, it's when we're all done. All right, we got this, because I had the ring in my kill kit, and so I was careful. I was careful to hand her a knife out of it without showing what was in the kill kit. And so then we're done. We're cleaning up. We have everything in the game bags and then strapped to our packs. I'm like, okay, here we go. She happened to pick up her binos and was glassing across this lake for goats. I was like, oh, right now. So I got out the ring and got on one knee and proposed. So it was good. And she said yes, which is good. It would have been awkward if she would have said, yeah, let me think about it. Then I would have been like, can you still haul down this half a deer? Because, but yeah, so.
I need your help.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, man. I mean, I'm sure on behalf of everybody listening too, like that's super big. And I saw the photos, and that's just such a classy way to go. And the other thing is the fact that she was glassing is like prior to you like proposing. I think that like is a prerequisite to the one for a hunter.
Yeah.
That's good work, man. Awesome job, and congratulations.
Thank you. I wanted something that was special and unique to us. Sometimes like that was something that I wanted, but it's something that she liked too. She's about you've met her. She's been hunting. Yeah. She likes to hunt. She likes to hike. She likes to camp. She likes to do all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't just something that was something that I wanted. It was something that we both enjoyed. We both have the memories, even though I bet she's going to remember how miserable the hike was more than the proposal. But at least it's a good story, I guess.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, that's going to be one of the best parts is like this dude, he drug me up to this place and it was horrible. We were going less than a mile an hour and it was thick and nasty. And I was like, what is he getting me into? Is he taking me here to kill me? And then you propose. That's going to be the story. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we hiked out, got down, back to camp, picked up camp, and then rode our bikes down. So we got back down to the boat at like 7:30, I think, and then crushed a bag of Cheetos, which was kind of weird. You get weird cravings, but man, we just the whole bag of Cheetos. So,
like a big bag or like an individual size bag?
It was the regular bag. It wasn't like the elementary kid lunch bag, but it wasn't the family size disgusting bag. It was like the normal, what used to be normal until they had a whole bunch of different bags. So, but I will say we had our back door or our back country fuel box before and after and during. So I won't leave that out. It was a pretty good box this last month.
Oh yeah, man. Wait, was that the August one? No, that was July. Yeah, July was a good box.
Yeah, because I'm behind. I think I get my box today or tomorrow. It takes a little bit to get up here. No, you guys ship on the 25th, right?
Yeah, well, Cody ships on the 20th. Most of the time, 20th or 21st, and folks get them by the 23rd, 24th usually. Yeah. I'm on his spare list now because I don't do anything directly with the box now. I just kind of post for the Rich Outdoors podcast. So I'm the leftovers. I get the sloppy seconds with the box now, but it's still it's one of my favorite things to get every month though, especially like now I'm headed into this bigger like backpack trip and I'm like, load it up. We're good.
That was the nice thing. That was one of the selling points. It wasn't just to have it during the season. It was to accumulate a bunch of stuff. And that's been nice because Abby and I have been tearing through it since she's been up here since August 7th. And we've gone on a couple of hunts. We've been trolling for fish. So just having those snacks there, it's been pretty nice.
Yeah.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
You guys have been slaying the fish. I've seen posts from both of you. Got landing some hogs.
Yeah, it's nice. It's been pretty slow, and I hate to, you sound really spoiled when you're in Alaska and you're catching halibut and you're catching salmon, but comparatively, man, it's been kind of a rough year so far. Like in the eyes.
But good for deer, right?
Yeah, good for deer. Got the proposal deer was my second deer, so that was nice. So I had a good start on that, and I'd like to go back to that spot. And I think now that I've seen it, and now that I've really scrutinized a couple different maps, I think there's a way that maybe I can get around those 2 knobs and hike up a different spot and maybe meet back up with the ridge, and then take that up. So we'll see how that works. But so what about you?
Now I am obviously. Well, I was just gonna say before we move on from the sitka deer, I'm obviously no sitka deer expert. Never hunted sitka deer in my life, but just by how hard it sounds to get to this area, man, it seems like there should be some big, like, older age class. Like, I think, like you said, that 2x3 is a good buck. I wonder if there's like an old troll that's hanging out up on top of that mountain that no one has seen for years. Just like a stud.
I saw that deer about 15 minutes before I shot that fork or that 2x3.
Oh, really? Okay, so he's there. You gonna go get him?
They were starting to pop out. Yeah, because it was the weather was changing. It had gone from that morning drizzly fog, gross. It was opening up. It was getting a little sunny, so the deer were popping. There was a lot of texture as you were going up there, and we were just below 3,000 feet. And man, it was there were definitely some nice deer. There was a really nice thick forky, and then 2x3, and there was one that just appeared over this little wrinkle in texture as we were making our way up to a different one that was super nice. But by the time I chambered, he was gone. So I'd like to get back up there. And I was in goat mode, mountain goat. Then I was able to look at some of those deer and think, no, I'm looking for a mountain goat. And then the transition started happening. I'm like, I don't want to go back empty-handed because this hike sucked. If we don't find any goats and don't see any goats and the weather closes in, I can't go back empty-handed. So the one I ended up shooting was nice. It was bedded down, and man, it had some great meat.
Wait, so this was all in one opening day? Like one day?
Yeah, we went out there Friday. We left at left the dock at like 3:30. It was about an hour and 45-minute run in the boat, about 2-hour bike ride, half-hour hike to camp. And then the next morning we went from camp at 1,500 feet, shot the buck at about 2 in the afternoon at just about 3,000 feet, and then went all the way back down to the boat that night.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool, though, man. That's pretty close, though. Like, all things considered, you spent a lot of, like, slow human-powered travel there. That's pretty close to your place to have that kind of experience. That's awesome.
Yeah. The boats is the game changer, because not having a road to these places, and people, even though it's hardcore here in Alaska, people want the easiest route possible a lot of the times. And so you have the local hunts, the local roads that you can drive to. There's people everywhere. The little muskegs right off the roads, you can see tons of people. The most accessible mountains that have trails on them, people are going to take the trail up to the top and then, try to go down the ridge. They're looking for the easiest bucks possible. They're looking for that bargain buck. So taking the boat really separates you from some people. Taking the boat and then a lot of people use four-wheelers, but taking the bike and then being willing to hike and then get into the spot that's pretty tough. You remove yourself from a lot of that traffic, and then unlike down south, you don't have someone incoming from the other side. Just go back in, and that's you're in good shape there. So when you and Jess come up, we'll maybe that will be a little bit more of a trail packed down, but there's certainly not many 125 as it is.
Oh, that's awesome. I would love to do something like that, man. And it's just like we were talking about it too. Like it's a great time to be out and up there because it's like a month before these archery deer seasons open up in the lower 48. So I am all about it. That sounds like a great trip.
Yeah, it's sweet. So, but the big problem right now is I got 2 tags left, and that's not a problem. But I really want to go back to that place, but the weather's been terrible. But we got 24 inches of rain in July.
Wow.
And
dude, I'm looking across now, and the driveway is first time that the driveway has been actually saturated with water since mid-July.
Yeah, it's been a rough one. I would love to go back up there and go after that big guy, but there's no guarantee of any sort of window. It seems like anytime they say it's going to be just cloudy, it's like 25 to 40% worse. So they say that it's going to be 50% clouds, and then it's going to rain, but just showers. It ends up being rainy the whole day. So it's finding another window to get back up there might be difficult because it's in a place where it just gets socked in, and the clouds will stay, and then they're just sitting there the whole time. So who knows if I'll have a chance, but I'd like to, and I'd like to take that 3rd tag and get one there, but that only leaves me 1 tag left until the end of November. And that's pretty fun, man. I had a good time last year.
There you go. Well, I guess you can always just go try to get that mountain goat, huh?
Yeah, I still got that tag. So, I sound like just a spoiled, the fishing's not that good this year, and what am I going to do about my tags? I sound really tone deaf right now.
That's okay. You and me are in the same boat, man. I've got these Wyoming tags burning a hole in my pocket, so I understand the struggle. It's like I don't really want to go chase the antelope anymore. I just want to shoot a deer. But I do have an antelope doe and 2 antelope doe tags and an antelope buck tag that open concurrently. So it's been all hectic trying to get something killed.
So yeah, tell me about you and I were texting about a mistake that you made. What was that about?
So I don't know if this is the exact mistake that we were texting about because I made a lot of them. So the last time that I had an antelope tag for myself, it took me 24 stalks to get my antelope. And on top of that, I used a decoy. So, it was kind of one of the things where the first time I did it, I found out that stalking antelope was really hard. And then now this time around, I'm very much so like just kind of expect to fail a lot. So I'm not discouraged based on what's happened so far, but it's definitely, not been that great necessarily. So that first morning, man, I was out there and I found a whole bunch of does. And the first thing I did was I tried to sneak around these antelope does 300 yards away in the wide open. And with antelope, that you cannot do that. They run off. They have such good vision that that's just not an option. So then I remembered that okay, you have to tuck behind a feature of some kind. You can't let them see you at all. So I went to the next spot and immediately found this really nice buck with another smaller buck. And I'm going to be honest, because this turns to a rifle tag, I'm being pretty picky, about the goats I put stocks on. My standards are a little bit lower because I have an archery, or I'm using archery equipment, but I am not taking every single stock. I'm trying to get a mature goat. So I see this goat, and I get out of the truck. I park around behind the hill, get out, and kind of like follow this goat. I'm belly crawling up to the first hill. He feeds out of sight, and then I sprint up to the next hill, take off my shoes, and I stalk around the first hill where I think he should be feeding right on the other side. Just as I peek around the side of the hill, he walks up and over the next hill in front of me. So I'm like, I go put my shoes back on, and then I run up to the next hill. Same dang thing. So there's another one. He's just cresting, 150, 200 yards in front of me. He's cresting the next ridge over. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is never going to happen. So I get my backpack and I run up the next one, and I'm legitimately in track mode here. Just trying to I don't know if anyone's done any long distance running. You just kind of get into this mode where you just have your steady strides, and you're not trying to sprint necessarily, but you're just trying to keep good pace. Mm-hmm. And I'm running up to this next hill, and I, get to the top, start sneaking, and I look down in the valley below me, 600-700 yards, and there's these two antelope bucks standing there. And I'm like, they just took off. That must be them. I'm just too slow. And so I kind of am discouraged. I'm sitting there on my knees, and I pull out my phone. Here's where the technology screws me. I pull out my phone, and my grandpa had texted me. He's like, hey, you in the mountains today? And grandpa's one of my best friends. So I was just like, no, not in the mountains chasing speed goats. And then I put my phone away, and I look up, and there's an antelope 40 yards away from me.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, oh, no. So, you tuck back down, and I get my arrow nocked and my rangefinder out, and that buck is just looking at me, and his head's right next to a sagebrush over the rise. And I know the gig's up, but, I'm ranging him, and he's 40 yards, and I kind of try to draw back, and he busts. It's just not the right situation. But little did I know. So that was 9 a.m., maybe 9:30 on opening day. That was the best buck I've seen thus far, and I've hunted 4 more days.
Oh, wow.
So turned out to be a really good antelope. But anyway, that's actually the second time I've looked down at my phone and looked up to see the quarry that I was chasing standing there in front of me. So I need to just put that dang thing away, just not touch it.
Yeah, I got the little indicator that said that my usage was down 55% or something like that. I'm like, well, yeah, because I was out of range, and so I didn't use it at all. But sometimes I just look down.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't need to look at the map, but I just look at I'll change the color on the morning's route, or I'll add something here, all the little features. Dude, what are you doing, man? Look up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's so funny because, you look at it while you're walking along, just trying to be where am I headed? What's coming up? What's the terrain like ahead of me? If you didn't have that thing, it wouldn't change necessarily the actions that I take either. I'm probably sure you're the same way. You're like, oh, cool. There's some rocky bands that we have to work our way up.
Yeah.
That didn't change the fact that I'm gonna have to crawl up them anyway. It's an addiction, and it's unfortunate because the first thing it cost me was a blacktail buck in the rut when I was in Western Oregon, and that one was a bummer because I hadn't seen a single buck up until that point. So fooled me once, shame on you. Fooled me twice, shame on me at this point, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, there were a couple times when we were going through that fog that I wanted to make sure that we stayed right on the right line, because if you're thick in the woods and you go the trail that's easiest, or you get on a game trail or something, it could take you off the mountain. You got to go back up. So
yeah,
sometimes it's all right, but it's kind of what we talked about at the beginning, that sometimes it's okay, but you got to know when to just keep your head up.
Yeah, I will say so when I was archery elk hunting last year, I had this spot. It was 3 miles in, so I started hiking. So my method is, if you can't tell, I kind of jog around a lot. Just I should probably give myself just more time. Wake up 30 minutes earlier and not run places, but I do it anyway. So I had 3 miles to go, and I had an hour to get there. So I was like, okay, got to keep a 3 mile an hour pace. So that's kind of like, for most folks who haven't paced themselves, like that's, your head is down and you're trying to keep your legs moving pretty quick. Like it's not a jog, but you're just trying to go. And pretty soon I look up, I have my track on, my Onyx, and about 30 minutes into it, I look up and I had walked, a mile in and then had totally J-hooked around and walked a half mile back towards the truck, just in this trucking mode. I had my headlamp on because that's in the dark when I'm trying to get in there. Yeah. And I was like, no, I should have looked at my Onyx, that set me back. So in that case, yeah, I should have been looking at it and making sure I wasn't going the wrong direction. But, geez, I mean, that's like the one case, when you're in the dark and stuff and you're really disoriented and thick timber. Yeah, it's probably helpful.
Growing up in Southeast Alaska, I'm used to being pretty good in the woods. You just kind of get used to markers and you kind of get used to basic sense of direction.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of years ago, I was fishing with a couple of buddies, and we found this really nice spot on a river that you couldn't tell by looking at it, but it's fairly shallow and even. But then there are these little like undulations in it, and the fish just stack up. The Dolly Varden and the rainbows just stack up in there. And so we were trout fishing, and you go in on this kind of oldish trail, then you hike way down river. And so we figured, hey, if we just go in right here from the road, if we just go straight, we're going to hit the dolly hole right there. And so we did that. The three of us, we just walked. All you got to do is go straight, go straight, go straight, go straight, go straight. So we saw a clearing, we're like, oh, great, perfect, there it is. And we had gone in a U. And we'd gone all the way back to the road. And I thought, oh, my gosh, how does that happen? You just think, oh, good, just go straight. But then you have to go around this snag and then around this. And then the easiest way to get between these trees is to go a little right. And so you just go a little right, little right, little right, little right, until you got in a horseshoe. It's unreal. And you just feel so done. And it's almost scary. You think, man, I grew up here. I shouldn't be doing this sort of stuff, but that was before on X. But man, that was weird feeling.
It is a weird feeling, but one of the things also is like important. I think is whether your phone dies or you don't have a GPS on you or whatever, like, is to make sure that you feel comfortable getting yourself out of those situations. Like I spent a little bit of time training with search and rescue when I was living in Laramie, which is Albany County. And, one of the things they keep talking about is like, if you do get lost, like right now, people are really trained to try to go uphill. And when they go uphill, they're trying to get cell phone service, right? Because you're just like, obviously I need to get a call out or something. Back in the day, like pre-cell phone, clearly, like the idea used to be when you got lost, you go downstream, you find a creek, and then you follow that creek down, because every creek drainage leads to a river, leads to a settlement, leads to people.
Yeah.
And so they actually said, like, as far as search and rescue is concerned, like they've had to start looking for people near the tops of mountains more than near the bottom nowadays.
Wow.
But that is something good to remember if you do get lost. Like, man, just remember, especially if you're on a freaking island, you're going to hit the ocean at some point. If you parked your boat on the shoreline,
Yeah. The basic
that might be helpful.
Skills are really important. And up here, you can get hypothermia during the summer. I was starting to get hypothermia last August because it was just rainy and it was cold and I wasn't moving because we were just waiting out some fog, and I lost feeling in my feet. I'm like, okay, this is the time where you start to gotta do some squats, something to get the it's not a huge deal. It's just one of those things, you just get used to. Okay, I need to recognize the fact that I can feel my feet. I need to get the blood going a little bit. Or like 2 of my fingers got totally numb. Like, why are two of my fingers numb? Okay, I got to get the blood flowing. I've done before where you're in a basin and that, okay, the basin, I don't know where I'm at. I have no idea where I'm at, but this little bit of a river leads to a bigger river, and I know that that meets up with the Harris River, which goes under the highway, so it's going to suck. But this is the way to go out and get found and intersect with the road. But
yeah. Can you start fires up there very well?
if you have accelerants,
Yeah.
there are little tricks and little things to do. Side of spruce trees, it's really pitchy, and so that stuff's pretty flammable. So if you have waterproof matches, you have a lighter, something like that, starting your base with some of that really sappy bark. There's some other spots where you can get you're more likely to find some more flammable or some drier grass and things like that. So, if you have something to cut those things and put it together, and, you can slowly build a fire, but at some point, you're going to need some bigger wood. And so that can be a real issue, but having a knife and cutting the shavings to help add to it. So we had a fire on the beach last weekend when we were boat camping. We set some crab pots, and then went to the beach and cooked up some food and it was raining all day, but we got a little fire going, so that was kind of fun. But.
Oh, that's cool. And you mentioned earlier, but like, I don't think people oftentimes go back to this notion of like doing air squats or push-ups or whatever, like to keep themselves warm. Like, you have this full capability of like keeping yourself warm as long as you just keep moving, It's like, it's definitely something I don't think our brains automatically go to. We automatically go to a fire, but in order to build a fire, especially like in a place where you're at, or in this, if you're in a frigid, cold Wyoming day or whatever, like, you have to have some dexterity and you have to have some patience to even get the fire going in most cases. Yeah. So you got to have some blood flow and stuff to keep that going.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's part of the culture and also the curriculum growing up here. You have 6th grade survival trip, and then the 8th grade survival trip over here in Ketchikan was actually, I think it was the Atlantic online or magazine, 8th grade trip, and they learn the survival skills. But all the kids up here have used hatchets, have chopped some wood, have built fires. You go outside, that's just how you play, or at least used to before video games and everything else made something else entertaining. But you had to be so self-sufficient, so you'd go outside and you do all this sort of stuff. So you're probably more likely in those situations to think, okay, I need to move to circulate the blood rather than just add more clothing, because once you run out of clothing, you're still cold. Oh my gosh, what do I do now? So getting that, and then also being prepared, like what type of clothing are you taking out there? You're not in cotton, you're not in jeans, because cotton kills. You need something that's going to be insulating. Even if you're wearing wool can still be warm when wet. So those sort of things are, you don't consciously necessarily think about it, but you just gather these sort of skills and stories and things. And so it really, it doesn't make you immune to disaster at all, but it might help if something does happen and it goes from an inconvenience, or it doesn't go from an inconvenience to something worse. It's just like, okay, that kind of sucked. I was cold, I got warm, rather than, it gets worse and then worse and then worse. And then all of a sudden it's over.
Have I ever told you about the story about my buddy's rifle icing up when we were elk hunting?
Icing up? No.
No. Okay. So here in 2018, I moved to Wyoming in July. So I didn't have any, actually had that non-resident antelope tag in 2018 as I was living here. And then I did some elk hunting with my buddy who was going to school down here. And I said, all right, Hayden, actually, I think he's coming with me on my deer hunt this weekend. But anyway, I was like, Hayden, this is why he owes me. If I find you an elk, will you skip your classes on the opening day of rifle elk season? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'll skip my my classes for opening day of elk season if you find an elk. So I went out scouting that weekend, and on Sunday night, I found a whole herd of elk, multiple bulls and a bunch of cows in this herd of elk. And I was like, all right, Hayden, you're coming with me. He's like, God dang it, I was hoping you wouldn't find any. So he skips like a midterm or something. It was actually quite important.
Wow.
We were just talking about this the other. And he was like, okay, fine, we'll find these out, because I sent him pictures and everything. So we get up there, and that night it had snowed and then gotten really cold and clear. It was -5 degrees as we left the truck, and everything was like the moon was out and shining, and all of the like light was reflecting off this new 6 to 8 inches of snow. It was gorgeous. We're hiking up to this glassing spot where I'd seen these elk from. And we get up there and we realize, shit, we're like 30 minutes too early, which is what you would rather be. But when it's -5 degrees outside and you're supposed to sit there for 30 minutes for light to, shooting light to happen, that's cold. So we're sitting there, we're doing just exactly what we were talking about. I'm doing push-ups and he's doing squats and vice versa. And we're seeing how many we can do in a row just to try to stay warm. And then right at first light, man, those elk showed up right at the edge of this meadow, right where I'd seen them the night before. And so he sets his rifle up. He's getting ready to make a shot. And I'm looking at my watch. We've got like 3 minutes until shooting light. This is opening day. There's people in the woods. There's wardens in the woods. We're playing by the rules, right? And I'm waiting, and we're waiting. It's getting down the last couple seconds, and he's like, "Dude, I'm on that elk. You just tell me when to shoot." And I'm like, "Dude, you can't. You still got a couple more minutes." And those elk, they round them. The big bull rounds his cows up and takes them off into the timber right before shooting light.
Oh, man.
We're just like, "Oh, no way." So we're like, "Well, there's fresh snow on the ground. We can chase these elk down." And him and I are both fairly good physical condition. Him and I worked out together at that point at the gym, and then knew we could keep up with each other. So we kind of get on these elk tracks. We start following these tracks, and sure enough, 2 ridge lines over, we finally catch up with these elk, and they're uphill in front of us. So they're 180, 200 yards, depending on what elk you're looking at. And so I get down on one knee, he's down on one knee, getting ready for a shot, and I'm looking through my binos, and I'm like, "Okay, Hayden, I'm ready." And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to shoot this next 6-point that walks out." The 6-point walks out, and I'm looking through my binos, and I'm like, "Okay, Hayden, I'm ready." He's like, "Dude, I'm trying." I'm like, "What?"
Oh.
"I'm trying." And so the 6-point like walks away, and then he's like, whacks another shell in. And I'm like, "Is there anything I can do?" He's like, No. I was like, "Okay, there's another 6-point. And this one was like, he was goofy. He was really big on one side, and then he had some other crazy stuff going on the other. And he was just a cool looking bull. I'm sitting there waiting for him. "All right, hey, you can shoot anytime now, man." And he's like, "Dude, my gun's not going off." I was like, "No." So I walk over there. I had this little Nalgene pouch on my hip, or my Nalgene bucket was on his hip pouch. And I don't know what to do other than like, hopefully the water's warm enough. And as soon as I poured that water on his gun, it just froze as like a sheet of ice. At that point, it's probably, 0 or a couple degrees above 0. So it was pretty cold outside. Kind of froze.
Wow.
Survived. Just talking about. We made a fire right there in this. We like dug deep underneath these bushes and got a fire going, and roasted his rifle over this fire like a shish kebab.
Perfect.
And eventually we actually, that whole action, warmed up and everything was working just fine. So then we're like, okay, we already lost these and found them once. Let's do it again. And so we cut those tracks and we follow those tracks again. And we're in the deep, dark timber at this point because we'd kind of been working. We were in the foothills at the beginning, and we just keep working deeper and up into the hills. And Hayden's like, "Oh, there they are." And these elk are running through this timber, and man, they're probably 75, 80 yards away. They're not that far. And Hayden just pulls up and shoots and nails the tree.
Oh.
Get away. So his rifle worked, and he missed that last shot. But oh my gosh, the third time wasn't quite the charm. But that was one of the most insane mornings of elk hunting I think I've ever. I don't think you can really beat it. We got on those elk 3 different times in one morning. But I went out that next night. We got back to the house, and I purchased a Solo Hunter rifle cover so that I didn't get snow and ice to my rifle.
Yeah, that's probably a good plan. Yeah. Crazy.
Hey, so that's something to think about when you're down here on your mule deer hunt, I guess. Keep that rifle cool, ready, snow and ice, man.
Yeah, shoot, just another thing to worry about. Of all the other things I got to worry about that now too. But it's good to have that in the brain at some point, so you kind of know, so you're not in that panicked what's going on. It could be, this is the problem, I can fix it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. Like, some folks to the fact, and they said, if you keep it on really well oiled, that can help it from freezing as well as keeping it covered up.
Yeah.
Keeping your truck if they're keeping your rifle in the outdoors overnight, keeping it in your truck or in the bed of your truck if you've got a canopy, that kind of thing helps it from freezing up, because it will get cold without having stuff to freeze.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
keep that in mind
thing
anyway.
is really important up here too, because it's so humid. So even if it's not super rainy, you think you kind of dry it off, but there can be a little bit of moisture still left over, and so your can rust, or can break down, and so the oil thing is really important up here too.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that, man. At this point, we trade humidity for the heat. Honest,
Yeah.
we've been crawling around in the cactus quite a bit after antelope, and Jess and I both have been, and holy cow, it's just like I'm super excited. This weekend I was looking, and it said snow showers down to 10,600 feet, and my camp this weekend is supposed to be at 10,800 feet, and that'll be quite the change from this 95-degree weather that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, shoot,
So,
man, for sure. Yeah, we might get up to 62 this weekend, so that's cool.
up to, is that your normal daily high, or is it a little higher than normal?
August is usually the best month. August is usually fairly dry, sunny, warm. But man, I think we've had like 4 days above 70 this year.
Dang,
Yeah, and usually we
that
have
seems so chilly.
yeah, we usually have like 4 or 5 days in August alone. Like, you get some really nice weather, and then you have some days in the 60s. But we usually hit 80 once per summer. But man, this year has just been wet and cold.
Huh. Send my way. We've got fires propping up
Oh,
here. Not too bad in Wyoming, but kind of all the states around Wyoming, and I think we could use a little bit more of this rain.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, what else you got, man? It's been about an hour, so you got some closing thoughts, or what's going on for the next hunt?
So this weekend on Friday, well, I guess on Saturday, I am going to head into the Wyoming backcountry for. I have 9 days. I have 9 days blocked off on the calendar, Saturday through the following Monday, which is Labor Day, to be archery mule deer hunting, and I'm super excited for it. I've done a bunch of scouting and stuff, so which I know you've kind of paid attention to, and it's kind of cool when you comment on it and stuff. I sent you a picture from my last scouting trip, which was abysmal, because besides the fact that I stumbled into a really nice buck, it was so smoky I couldn't see anything. So I'm really excited to go give this a shot, though. I haven't actually backpacked in by myself for more than a weekend before, and so this is going to be a fun trip, man.
Nice, outstanding.
Yeah. How about you? What do you have coming up?
Depending on weather, I'd like to go back to that spot, and I think I want to try this new route around those humps. Take Abby back up there and see if we can, look for a goat. If not, then shoot a nice buck. See if we can find that old guy. But if that doesn't look like it's going to work out, if we're not going to get any sort of break in the alpine weather-wise, then might take the boat out with another buddy, his wife. They just bought a brand new boat. And so we did boat camping last weekend. So we just go out to an inlet or a bay and anchor, set some crab pots, anchor up, go eat on the shore, then camp on the boats. And so we might do that again. Try to get some halibut, some salmon. So either option's good. Just hoping for some good weather.
Oh man, I will absolutely trade you mule deer meat for halibut, salmon, any of them.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, we'll see if I can get into some good stuff. Maybe when I get down there, we can swap something out. But that's a pretty long drive, so I don't know. We'll see.
Dude, I just on record, for record, I will absolutely drive to me.
Yeah. All right.
So,
We haven't committed.
Yeah.
Drive. Cool.
I'd be happy to. Plus, I have a whitetail tag out not too far from your neck of the woods, so
Yeah.
I can make it a big old loop and it would be fun. So, plus never bad to have another set of eyes on the mountain, and I'd be happy to help.
Not at all. Not at all. That'd be nice. We've talked a lot of hunting. We've never hunted together, so that'd be nice.
We fished together, and that worked out pretty good. So I think we broke the ice. We can go hunting now.
That's true. That's true. All right, man. Well, thanks again for taking some time out of your day, and we'll be in touch, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, sounds good, Jeff. Thanks for having me on as your Wyoming correspondent again. I really appreciate it, and this is fun.
Awesome. Take care, man.
Yeah, you too.